The question came out of nowhere, hanging in the air like a fragile glass about to fall and shatter. It wasn't romantic or playful. It was desperate, quiet, and heavy with unspoken fear. When she asked if I could pretend to be her date for tonight, I saw more than a request. I saw someone standing at the edge of disappointment, hoping a stranger might help her hold her ground just a little longer. Before the story pulls you deeper, take a moment. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet miracles that happen between ordinary people, please like this video, comment your thoughts, share it with someone who needs hope, and subscribe to the channel Midnight Tales. Your support keeps stories like this alive. It was late afternoon when I met Arwen Hale outside a modest cafe washed in soft sunlight. The day was warm, the kind of day that makes shadows gentle instead of sharp. I had known her only as a coworker from a temporary project, polite smiles, brief conversations, nothing more. Yet that day, she looked different. Her shoulders were tense, her eyes searching, as if the daylight itself had become too bright for the weight she carried. She explained that her family was hosting a small gathering, something celebratory, something important. Everyone would be there. And everyone expected her not to arrive alone. I wasn't a heroic man. I was an average one, still figuring out my place in a world that often moved too fast. I asked myself whether her family would be okay with me, not because I feared judgment, but because I feared being part of a lie that could hurt her even more. But there was something in her expression, hope mixed with exhaustion, that made it impossible to walk away. So I agreed, telling myself it was just one evening, just a harmless favor under the bright, honest sun. The drive to her family's house felt longer than it was. Sunlight streamed through the windshield, illuminating dust in the air like tiny floating memories. Arwen stared out the window, occasionally smiling, occasionally pressing her lips together as if holding back a storm. I realized then that this wasn't about impressing anyone. It was about survival, emotional survival in a world where expectations often outweigh compassion. Her family home stood in a quiet neighborhood, surrounded by flowering trees that swayed lazily in the afternoon breeze. Laughter drifted from the open windows. Balloons bobbed gently, and a banner hinted at celebration without shouting it. Everything looked warm, welcoming, safe. Yet I felt the tension tighten inside me as soon as we stepped onto the walkway. This was her battlefield, dressed up as a family gathering. Inside, the air smelled of fresh food and memories. Faces turned toward us, curious, evaluating, hopeful. I could feel their questions before they spoke them. Arwen's posture straightened, but her hands trembled slightly. I stayed close, not as an act, but as instinct. The sunlight poured in through wide windows, catching the edges of framed photographs, moments of pride, success, expectations fulfilled. I understood then what she was up against. She wasn't trying to fool them. She was trying not to disappoint them again. As the afternoon unfolded, I watched her family carefully. They weren't cruel people. They were loving in the way that sometimes hurts the most. Their smiles carried relief, their questions carried assumptions. And Arwen carried all of it on her back, answering with grace, laughing when she was expected to laugh. The lie sat between us like a silent agreement, growing heavier with every passing hour. What surprised me was how real it started to feel. Not the pretending, but the connection. We moved through the gathering together, sharing small moments, passing plates, exchanging glances, standing side by side in the sunlight that streamed across the living room floor. I saw Arwen relax little by little, as if the burden she carried was finally being shared. And in that sharing, something unexpected happened. I began to care, not because I was supposed to, but because she let me see the parts of herself she hid from everyone else. The challenge wasn't convincing her family. The real challenge was time. Every smile from them reminded me that this moment would end. That tomorrow, the sunlight would return, honest and unforgiving, and the truth would follow. I struggled with the fear of becoming another disappointment in her life, another person who helped her hide instead of helping her heal. As the afternoon leaned toward evening, the gathering softened. Conversation slowed, laughter became quieter, more intimate. Arwen stepped outside for a moment, and I followed, the daylight now warmer, golden, forgiving. In that light, I realized that this wasn't just her story anymore. It was mine too. I had come as a favor, but I stayed because I saw someone worthy of being chosen, not out of obligation, but out of genuine care. Something shifted then. Not dramatically, not with grand declarations, but with understanding. She didn't need a perfect partner. She needed someone willing to stand beside her while she learned to stand for herself. And I didn't need to be extraordinary. I just needed to be present. When we went back inside, the lie didn't feel as sharp. It felt like a bridge, temporary, imperfect, but leading somewhere better. Her family saw her smile, her ease, her strength. And maybe that was enough for one day. If this story is reaching you on a quiet afternoon or a long day, and it's touching something deep inside you, please take a moment near the end to like the video, comment your feelings, and share it with someone who believes in small acts of kindness. Your engagement truly matters. Before the ending, I have a special request. Please comment one word that describes how this story made you feel. Your words mean more than you know. When the sun finally dipped low and it was time to leave, nothing dramatic happened. No confessions, no promises. Just a shared understanding that something meaningful had begun in the most unexpected way. Sometimes, the most powerful stories don't start with love. They start with kindness. And sometimes, pretending for one afternoon in the daylight can lead two people toward a truth they were both too afraid to hope for. That night, as the sky softened into evening, I realized that second chances don't always announce themselves. Sometimes, they simply ask, quietly, vulnerably, if you're willing to stay.